They have to turn it in.
They're missing exit tickets.
They like it.
They don't know when to leave your class. They're
No,
missing-
they know, but now they're like, we won't leave until we want to turn this in. They remind me, like, don't forget.
My students in the
That's
morning
funny.
are supposed to write in a morning report,
Mhm.
which keeps them busy while I set up
That's
the
nice.
attendance. What you did in the past, what we're doing today, and what's the morning announcement about. And usually they have what is today about emailed to them or on the board already, and they are asking like, what's today about? And I say, I'll let you know. And then they ask, well, what are we doing today? And I'll let you know. We're not supposed to tell them ahead, right? And explain all the rules to them. I just said,
Did we have a rule about not telling them ahead? Can we tell them about tomorrow's objectives? I don't know.
No.
I don't know if we had a rule on that.
and the signature,
But-
and the signature forms, half of them return them. So I'm standing at the door and making sure like next time you bring it. Next time you bring it.
Give me that form, yeah.
Yeah, so I have 10 of them returned, and the others lost, not lost, we're still pushing for it. So it might be a while before we get all of them back.
Okay.
That's true. On campus, we're not allowed to do it. I'm allowed to do it if we have visitors, but it's interviewing season.
Interviewing.
All new staff for next year, so I'm not allowed to not have it on there because we want us to look all like,
Oh, you've been banned.
yeah.
Oh dear. All right. Well, so you won't have data from half of your study, so you only have half the data then, right? All right. Well, these things happen, right? This is research in the real world. You never know when interviews are going to come.
So I'm sorry, what are we supposed to explain to them? Why we're not telling them what's the lesson about today?
I just knew I had to because I know my students that if I didn't explain what was going on, I'd have to.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things. I guess we'd rather not, but if you have to, you have to. It's one of those things. I mean, we'd like to. We could always explain once we're all done, and it's fine to explain to them what happened, why you were doing it, and what you found out. Once we get our results.
It's a slight challenge for me because I have rotating block schedule.
Okay.
So where I see my students 3 times a week. They do listen to the weekend, so it's a little bit weird. And I just wanted to know, is there a date that we have to have this on? Because next week is going to be my posting objectives.
Yeah. So okay. So the schedule, and I'll have to talk about this again when more people come. But the schedule is tight. So we're here in week 10 out of 15. That's we've come a long way. So and we don't have class next week. So next week I am out of town, and coincidentally the faculty are on strike. So that both of those things are happening. I don't know what Hare's going to do. He is back as of yesterday. He finally came back from his travels and adventures. So he's back. So he'll have to tell you, although he did lose his voice apparently, so you won't be able to hear him. But
Even with the microphone.
well, yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe the technology will save him. But he'll have to let you know what he's planning to do next week. It's for those of you who don't know, it's a 5-day strike starting next Wednesday and going till the following Tuesday. There are going to be pickets. There's going to be stuff like that, and everybody has to decide what they're going to do about that. But for us, this class is canceled anyway. So hey, it doesn't affect us really, and I get credit for going on strike. So that doesn't help us. And so then the following week, that'll be week 12. Then we need to really, that day on the 12th, we've got to figure out what our data says. So we need all that data entered by what is that, April 20th. Yes, thank you. We've got to get the data in and organized by then so we can get our answers and write our reports that week. Because, well, there's not many weeks left. So there's that. And in the meantime, we're going to move ahead with our other big project, which is writing our master's proposal. So those are really the main 2 things we have left to do this semester, is finish up the objective study and write our master's proposal. So, and there's many steps to each one of these things. So we're going to talk about that today. But that's the basic idea. So in terms of collecting your data, you want to probably wrap up the 19th at the latest and be able to enter data for the 20th. We don't want any more data coming in after that because we'd like to get a full class set of data, as much as we're going to get, to be able to look at on that day.
Where are we entering all of our data? Because right now I haven't even used the form, right? I have just all these things.
Fantastic question. Who can help Kurt answer this question? And I'm going to pull up the methods page with our information.
We want to talk to people about how we're going to enter that, if we're just going to put 1010, like if they got it, they didn't get it, or how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Right now, some of the data, you can't enter into a form, right?
Right. So there is this form, right? Informal assessment task of students, name of teacher, where are you posting objective that day, what period, are the students on task? Yeah.
So that's one data point you can put.
Right?
And there's only
And
like-
what's this one? Is this the same thing? Oh, this was the permission slip. Yep.
That's all I got so far.
All right. So we need to know what we're doing with our exit tickets, right?
Yes, we all have all.
Just didn't know too.
All right. So what do you think?
Well, there's two questions on the exit ticket. There's the qualitative one. We can report that one pretty easy. And then the content level one, since it's just whether they're right or wrong, they said a 1 or a 0, 1 for correct and a 0 for wrong.
Yeah.
Now, we gotta do that for everything too.
Right. So what form do you have the exit tickets in right now?
We all,
Yeah, I did.
That's modified.
So you either have paper forms, some of them graded, some ungraded. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Or you've got responses to survey, either graded or ungraded. Does anybody have spreadsheets already of students with the answer? Okay, cool.
So,
That's probably the easiest thing, right?
Yeah, if you're using the Google form, it's really easy because it tabulates in the spreadsheet automatically. So I've just been creating a new tab for each day and just changing the question right on my copy of the form. And that way you can copy paste all of their responses onto a separate tab for each day. And then I've just done the average of the rating and the average of how many they got right.
Hmm.
I don't know if anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what information would we want to collect from each class?
the average and standard deviation.
You can also.
Well, standard deviation, if it's right or wrong, not all that interesting.
Well, we could do it on how they feel.
Because if it's a 1 or a 0.
But we're doing also how did they feel about that.
Okay. So there's 3 questions then?
No, two. Two for the students and then there's the teacher one, teacher informal.
Okay, the 2 for the students are the,
How are you feeling? And the multiple choice question on their content.
okay, that's right, okay, gotcha. Okay, so we need to know who was the teacher, and we need to know the date, and we need to know if there's objectives, yes or no, right? And
Well, this spreadsheet's already,
does this already exist somewhere?
this one does, the says yes or no teacher.
Well, but it's, you're gonna put in.
Now we're gonna.
Yeah, there's.
Well, no, but then it's,
A spreadsheet that's already.
So that spreadsheet. for that
percent
form,
correct.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, we probably should put number of students.
You could just add that.
Um,
to the one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that's what I meant, like.
We already have it.
graded, so why not?
Yeah, we already have a spreadsheet.
That's
for all of
fine.
us, so
We're
we
just
could-
brainstorming here,
Yeah, so you could
Yeah.
add columns to it.
right? We need to know the number of students, we need to know the percent correct, and then the other one is the average
How they're
affinity,
feeling. On a
um,
scale of 1 to 4, so average.
average, what are we calling that, like? How do we word it?
we said,
Average sentiment.
Sentiment. Okay, cool. And that's a 1 to 5 scale, so you're gonna get something like 3.27, something like that, right?
It's 1 to 4. It's 1 to 4.
1 to 4. Okay, 1 to 4 scale. Okay. And so we want to get this. So each person would potentially have 10 entries on here, so 10 rows. Does that make sense? Cool. Now we may not all have all that data, but we want to see how much of it we can collect, so we get a large sample. What are there other variables that we should collect? What were some of the sort of variations that people were doing?
We also need,
There was like,
They're graded in class before.
yeah, before, survey, after the week, posting it, after the week, not posting.
yeah. Say that again.
I didn't see a change in the grade. Last week with my week of posting objectives, none of my kids had major changes in their grades that related to that. I had kids turn late, but that didn't affect them.
We're gonna enter grades at some point, right?
Yeah.
How are we gonna do that? An average grade? But that's just gonna be for the week, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we need another spreadsheet, which is gonna be average grade for the week. All right, does somebody wanna prepare these spreadsheets for data? We could use this. This is totally fine.
We have one that's already.
Already retyped.
You retyped it?
So it's in the same spreadsheet.
All right, you're already doing it. All right, good.
as the form.
And you're gonna link that somewhere on here.
Click the spreadsheet data at the bottom. Right there. So there's a tab that says.
Fantastic. Oh, look at that.
Exit ticket data.
Mm-hmm.
That's from the form.
This is from the form, right?
Exit ticket.
And this is the exit ticket data tab. Cool.
Now, we also need the content question, because we all asked them a content question.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, isn't that the percent correct?
get it right. I missed that. I typed it.
Yep. Okay, so we got the percent correct, the average sentiment, and the N of students. How do we figure out what the N is?
Students are-
That's however many exit tickets you get back, right? We'll just go with that number. So if the students walk out of the room with their exit ticket, they don't get counted.
So we're supposed to do the average teacher sentiment, like how many students were on task?
That is this form response tab, and there's a form that goes with this document, and you can go to form and say go to live form, and you get this. Well, you could probably just type it in the spreadsheet too.
Yes. you
Although it does kind of mess up your form sometimes when you do that, but we'll figure it out. It'll work okay.
can. And then student grades have a tab, but not written.
And we have timestamp and name, and do we need period? Do we need that on our exit ticket data? Are we doing different things in different
Yes,
periods?
Some of us are reporting one of our classes.
So then should we have a period column? Okay, make it so. I love doing that.
Don't you just need the numbers?
Well, you might want to keep your data separate. If you have it separate, you might as well report it separate, because then we have more classes to report, more ends.
Right, is it possible,
I mean, one of the things we know is that classes sometimes develop their own personality.
oh, yeah.
They're real different from each other.
Like, for the exit ticket, all my periods are taking it the same. So while most of them take it at the end of class, a few of them take it a couple periods later, and so my students are all in that step.
If they are, then they are. Just for a period, you can put 0 or all. something like that.
Student grades, which
And then then we need a tab for student grades. Is that what this is?
yes,
Look at
all
that.
The teacher beginning.
Week 1.
I guess
Probably
we
need period as
see
well,
that
right?
before.
Or why don't we just do week without and week with?
We were also doing one before.
Oh,
We
okay,
were
cool.
free.
Pre, that's your week 0. Okay, I got you.
Pre, during.
But should we organize it by week 1 and week 2, or should we organize it by week with objectives and week without objectives? I think that'll be easier. It'll be less confusing if we do it that way.
Yeah, let's just focus on width.
Because then we could just sum the columns and it'll be nice and simple. What is that? What is it? If you go to Philadelphia and you get a cheesesteak, it's either wit or without. Wit. Wit.
So this is just an average of all student grades. Is that what that's what we're entering?
Yeah.
So yeah. So we need to say what that is. Average. You can use two rows if you want. So mean grades is just the grades for that class, or their cumulative grade at that week? Which is easier to get?
Huh?
Are we talking about the grades for their assignments for that week, or their grade in the class at that week?
With mine, it'd have to be the grade because it's cumulative.
You don't have grades for the week.
I have to like.
So this is going to be a cumulative grade.
It'd be a lot of work.
All right. Okay. We don't want to do a lot of work. That's no good.
I thought we were just doing like before, their grade before and their grade after.
Yeah.
That, it's interesting though, because if there's so many points already,
Hmm.
this effective 1 week may be quite small, we might not be able to.
That's exactly right. The
Yeah.
change is going to be very small, and so it seems unlikely we're going to find a lot for this. Look at that. We're famous. Nice. Nice. Excellent.
I'm not the one who made that.
No, it's my last name. I'm always, I first.
I don't know why I'm at the top.
All right, cool. Other question, anybody not sure what they're supposed to do at this point, or do they have some question about entering their weird classes data? We good? Kurt, you started this.
I think so.
All right, good. Well, no, it was good that you started it. We needed to do this.
So on the exit ticket there, we should have roughly 10 lines or so. Right?
Huh?
Is that correct?
Exit ticket layout, people will have up to 10 lines each.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have to be in order, we can organize them.
Right? If you got all 10 days, if you're on block schedule, you might not have so many days. If you had interruptions or got sick or something,
What are you doing next?
these things happen.
We can organize it by teacher.
I mean, where am I entering all of the raw tickets that I have into that Google form? So
Well, you want to come up with the average, the percent correct and the average sentiment. So you need to make your own spreadsheet for your class.
okay.
Do you remember how to find the average?
You said exit tickets, each person, meaning each one of the teachers or the students?
Students are filling out an exit ticket every day.
So we need 10 exit tickets per student.
Oh, yeah. Do they have dates on them?
2 seconds.
I'm doing it by form.
Oh, yeah, so they'll have a timestamp. It'd be good.
I don't see them every day, so I'm going to have less than 10.
Less than 10, that's fine. We'll get what we get, right?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I'm actually loving these, I like the exit ticket because I do use the form in the spreadsheet and I make the pie chart and it shows me right away.
Today was kind
I can do the mean so easily as you showed us.
Oh, nice. And do you show them the results?
I look
Like the
at-
next day, do you like say, oh, look at this?
Well, I don't wanna show them because then they'll see, oh, look, we got it wrong.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I would have to hide that.
right.
And I know we're supposed to.
Do you know on the if you do a Google form,
Yeah,
you know that summary of responses, it'll make the pie chart for you.
yeah, but it's also, just because of the year we've been doing it
Okay.
all the time, so.
Okay.
But it's
So-
nice. It's very nice.
So for me, I'm going to reserve a number of rows and put the exit tickets for my students.
Or the average from the exit ticket. So you need to average each day. So you take your form and you figure out who's correct or not, add a column for correctness, and then take an average to figure out what percentage are correct. Does that make sense to people?
Some they liked it, or they didn't like it, because the exit ticket is to do, how do you feel, and then
All right. So let's do a little example here.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got a timestamp, and I've got, are they students putting their names on them?
Yes.
And then they've got their answer to the multiple choice, and they've got their, what do we call it? Sentiment. Whatever we call it. So the data would look something like that, right? So if you've got, say, Monday, and obviously this will be like some date or whatever, and you've got a bunch on Monday, you've got to figure out who got this correct, and then get a percent correct, right? So you want to create a new tab over here called correct.
How do you put the sentiment correct? They should love it.
Well, the sentiment is just a scale, right? They're just doing, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Dang, spreadsheets are too smart for their own good. Or no, you need a $, right? There we go. Now we're Monday. So let's say, so this is Joey, and he answers B, and this is Sarah, and she says C. Now, what is the correct answer? Let's say B is the correct answer. So this one's going to get a 1, and that's going to get a 0. And so you're going to get 1s and 0s, something like that. How do you figure your percent correct? Now, can you automate this correct thing? Do you guys know how to automate stuff on the spreadsheet? You want to do an if statement? Have you done if statements before?
No.
So what you do is you go in here and you say, you start with an equals because it's a formula, and then you say if. So you want the if one right here, right? And so then you say B, or that answer equals, and then you say B, right? The little quotes and a comma, and then you say 1, 0, like that. So the first thing is, if this is true, you get the first response, or if it's false, you get the second. Does that make sense?
Does that have to be quotations or the single?
Yes.
It's single, right?
If it's a, well,
That's similar.
character.
Is it all the other way? Yeah.
The easy alternative is just make a pie chart and it's gonna give you the percentage.
That works too.
Pie chart, yeah. It's not automated, but totally would work just fine.
That's what I'm doing.
Didn't even like it. I guess you need a quote. All right. Cool. And so then, if we copy this down, it would give us into zeros. But if I put a B in, it gives me a 1 because it says that's right. And then to figure out your percent correct, what do you do? Average. And then you just highlight all of Monday, and you get your percent correct for Monday. Right, so something like that. And this is recorded in the Google Hangouty thing, so in case you forget how to do this exactly, you can do that. But the pie chart, just as good. You highlight your data for the Monday. You say, show me what would you do? You do something like, you'd highlight this, and you'd say insert a chart, and gives you a nice pie chart, right? You don't even have to do anything. You have to finish the insert. You say, oh, well, I know it's B, so 75%. I don't know. You got nothing else to do all day. Hey, it's a good job.
One.
All right, how do I get out of this? There we go. Cancel. All right. Okay, so does that help with calculating the information you need for your data? So you've got your exit tickets, and you want to calculate the percent correct. The sentiment, we're just going to average this, right? You're just going to average that sentiment for each day. So if you've got all the Monday people, you just average it out, and you say, this is percent correct, and then this could be and that just averages out. So you just put a cell here that averages out all that.
So it's not the correct, no, it's a percentage of how many people feel happy or less happy or bad about it.
It's just, yeah, an average response on the 1 to 4 scale, right?
So you're gonna.
Did everybody do their scale the right way?
Wonderful.
Which is high, which is good.
Or-
All right, because this always messes people up. Is everybody listening to this?
On the Google form, it says,
Oh, in the Google,
like at the end, it says, I get it, and it says, at the one, it says, I'm feeling confused.
okay. So that's crucial, because that really messed us up one year, where half the people did it one way and half the people did it the other way. And then we didn't figure it out until like we were almost done with the data
I
analysis.
got the new form, so whatever it is.
Sorry.
So far, I'm finding my students are very overconfident.
Excellent. You made it. All right. Cool. All right. So questions about entering your data from everybody but Mark.
Mark, you could watch
We'll catch you up later.
So we're going to collect our Google form and manually enter it there, or is there a way?
You're only
to
gonna manually enter
Oh.
averages.
copy
Yeah.
paste or?
So right. So then you got your data here. You're going to enter these two things
And that's it.
onto this data sheet here, where we go to exit ticket data. So you go down to FADI, it's down here somewhere, and you will enter that data. What happened to our titles here? What? Oh, sorry, I scrolled over. Never mind. Right. So you'd have percent correct and average sentiment, and you know what the N should be for your students.
We already got that.
Cool. So look, we can see actual data here. Look at that. It's exciting. Data. Research. So good. All right. So when's our goal to get this done by?
Next time we meet, April 20th.
We need to have it all in by the 20th. So 2 weeks from now, we can crank through all the data and figure out our answers. What happened? It's going to be great. Are we doing an exit survey, an end of the thing survey? Is there anything at the end?
We didn't plan it, but I think that it's
I
probably.
mean, we've got the sentiment. Is there anything? What would we ask if we wanted to ask a survey at the end?
Do you think that objectives
For us or for the students?
Students, I'm thinking.
Oh,
We could make up one Google form and just like get as many students as could fill it out.
Yeah.
As long as we've got like a teacher, as long as there's a teacher like drop down so they can find their teacher on there in case they forget who you are.
You want the students to have access to this?
Not to this. This would be a new form.
I like the idea.
when the teacher posts objectives, does it help you stay focused?
Already started.
Cool.
So if you don't have computer access most of the time, doing it on paper is
I'd
like,
have to do it.
yeah, so I'm wondering.
Could you send it
if put
home?
on Clickers,
Could they do it on their phones?
I'm not allowed to do that either. Could
So they
Clickers
get-
do, you do, for Clickers, you do the multiple choice, and you do 1, 2, 3, 4 on Clickers?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, you do A, B, C, D, but
Yeah.
So I'll have to
change
give them or give them a scale again.
it. Okay.
Scale works good, either way.
I'm not counting all that.
so the only technology available to you is holding up a piece of paper with a weird symbol on it.
Yeah.
All right. That works. That's something.
Which is why I want to
You can do a lot with that. Very good. Very nice. All right, cool. So, any more questions? Any things you're wondering about? Since we don't meet for 2 weeks and we need to have this ready to go. We do still have email and things like that. Cool. All right. So one final thing about the objective study.
Posting the objectives helps you stay focused on the lesson.
So you said the 19th would be the last one.
Kyle, let somebody else take it.
What are they learning?
Someone else makes it. They put it on the same page for data.
There you go. Cool. So the one last thing about this is I put up a link a forum here for objective studies anecdotes. So right at the beginning of class, we were talking about the things that you were seeing in your class. Your students freak out if there's no objectives, or they love the exit ticket. They don't want to leave your class until they've filled it out, so even when you don't have one. Here is a good place. Here is a good place to write those down. So objective studies anecdotes. Just add a discussion topic and write down what's going on in your class, and then we'll have a nice list of these. And this is data. These are observations of our classes.
We also put a anecdotal optional question on the forum, so like if they have something to add, it'll actually populate the spreadsheet.
Oh, that's cool. We'll do it there then. Heck, don't do this. Do it there.
I had a crazy
No,
day
do it
last Friday.
Yeah, it's been
So sixth period was really difficult because we got our basketball carnival right after, and I was playing, and I never played basketball, and they were ready to like laugh at me.
Oh,
And so
exciting.
they were like hyped up, like ready to go to the game, and like, they kept asking me, and I was like, oh my god, can you just focus on your work right now? So I made a note of that, like basketball carnival is right after sixth period, so the percentage is low, due to that.
Amy wrote, I think there's something you should say.
Yeah. I have this student teacher that is in the classroom right now, and she complains if like anyone says anything in class. It's just like, I can't work with these interruptions. It's like, oh, you have no idea the interruptions you're gonna get.
Stay away from it.
Stay away from teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. She's gonna learn. We'll see. She, well, there's a chance she won't make it out of the student teaching. So there's also that. All right.
Most teachers will be teachers.
Well, or something.
In California.
Okay. Cool. All right.
2 years?
We still have tons of stuff to talk about, but I want to spend a couple of minutes hearing about what happened at the Q conference. For those of you who were at Q, who got to go? Who?
I'm the only one.
You were the only
I
one.
thought they were gonna go.
You had plans to go, but no
I don't know
sale.
what happened.
Yeah, they were out of tickets. It was sold out.
That's right.
By the time
It was like an
I got
Adele
approved,
concert.
By the 2 months was approved, I could not register. I had already paid for the hotel. I had to go through a whole
Oh, that's
Oh, that's great.
to get my money back.
okay.
All right. Well, then it's all about you. What did you find out?
I have my little notebook.
Did you attend Goripo's presentation? Any of this?
No, I was, no,
It's on the top of my list.
But there was a lot of really interesting stuff. There was a lot of sessions on coding, so coding was a big thing, like Scratch. We talked about Python. There's like this thing called Girls Who
Code.
Girls Who Code, and then they have like a professional coder come and teach the girls at your school. The presenter that I got to see, their mentor worked at Twitter, so they took a field trip to the Twitter headquarters. So that was kind of cool.
Is that here?
And no, it's in San Francisco.
Oh,
There was a lot of stuff that I hadn't like thought about. One of the things was if we're going all one-to-one or we're using technology, do students have access to internet at home? Do they have access to Wi-Fi? Which is something that I hadn't thought about. There was the Coachella Valley schools. They outfitted buses with
Oh, yeah, I love
solar
that.
panels and Wi-Fi routers, and at night they took them to like the trailer home parks or other parts of the city so that everybody in the district, they're one-to-one, so that everyone would have access to Wi-Fi and they could do their homework assignments. So that's something that I hadn't thought about, not just having access to computers or iPads, but also to the internet. But AT&T is going like national with a low-cost internet. It was just really interesting, but a lot of coding. They talked about digital citizenship. So how are we teaching our students about their digital footprint, about security, about what stays private, like private information versus privacy, being kind to one another online, and Common Sense Media has a lot of really good resources about that. So for me, like next year, that's something that I may want to do and try to get more into coding. And those are the main things that I remember. Oh, there was a lot of stuff on like Google Forms and how to use them. Have you guys heard of Autocrat or CRAT? I can't. So basically, you fill out a form. You make a form. You make a template, and whatever that form
whatever, you link it to kind of together with this autocrat, and whatever the answers on the form are, it takes it and puts it in this doc template, so then you can send a formal thing, like let's say you want to make an appointment, or let's say for your office hours or whatever. So I fill out a form, and then once I fill it out, this autocrat sends me an email with a document that says, thank you for replying to this, and your meeting is scheduled for this date, which is something that I inputted into the form. So it's really good for like parent-teacher conferences, so that parents get a response from you. It looks really formal.
What is
Okay.
it called?
Is that,
Autocrat.
there's an option with the future of work.
It's a little bit like that, but it sounds like it's automated when people fill out a form.
Yeah.
Autocrat?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Autocrat?
The add-on.
Add-on. Autocrat.
Yeah, it's just an add-on, and you create like the template. There's a way to put it in, like if you have them put in your name, and then it says thank you, and then the way you put it in the document, like with the two character, I don't know what to call it, it looks like this. The less than, two less than, and then two greater than symbols, and then it inputs whatever you put on there. So it was kind of cool.
Huh. So yeah, it's like a mail digit of some sort. I've always wondered about mail digits in Google Sheets.
Yeah, there's different ways to do it. There's an add-on that will take your sheet and turn it into Word docs. So if you have like long things that people write, like paragraphs, it's really a pain to read it on a spreadsheet, right? And so you can like dump it into a Google Doc instead. So then you can read it and it formats it nicely.
What is that?
There's an add-on for that.
I need that for progress report.
I should have it. What's it called? Save as doc. That one. Yeah.
Last time I did that on the test, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. No, I use that a lot. Save as doc. So it basically takes like a row and turns it into a doc.
So multiple rows, if I have for one student, multiple things I'm describing, I can just paste it into a document, save as a doc, or I have to paste it.
Yeah, so it'll save it as a document with like headers and stuff in between the different cells.
Okay, right.
Well, that's save as doc, and then autocrat is this one that will send a response.
Could you launch save as doc just to?
Well, I'm afraid. I don't know what's gonna happen.
It's gonna pollute.
It seems to want a new job. I don't know, but I don't have a form on this, so I don't know what it's gonna do.
It's more of the form with a doc, not the sheet.
Oh.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna let you leave that to the user to play with at home, and I will do the same. Looks like there's a movie here. If you want to see how it runs, feel free to mention that. Thank you for that. The coding stuff is interesting. Coding is a very hot topic right now. There's the buzzword that people have been using for about the last 10 years is computational literacy, computational thinking, computational literacy. That there's a skill that you get when you do coding, which is not just useful for coding, but useful for other things. Other kinds of tasks, things like using spreadsheets, things like designing a workflow for companies and things like that. That it's the same sort of thinking, and that coding is a good way to learn it. And so it's actually useful in things beyond coding. You don't have to be a programmer your whole life to benefit from learning
They
it.
started a new academy at one of our rival high schools that it's an entire academy, and they even have a coding English class. So they actually read code as if it was English, but then they also read books and articles that go with it. But they're actually teaching it as a language.
Is it like poetry?
Huh?
Is it like poetry?
Some code is.
Exact
It was
ING,
really,
so
it's like the teacher
SQL.
was explaining to me in a tech meeting, it was like, how, it seemed, yeah, it was.
001.
No, but I mean, it actually like,
Is there a compelling plot in this?
they weren't using
code?
binary, like they were using all the different languages in coding and explaining it. It was interesting.
That sounds interesting. I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is also the Computer Science Unplugged project. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, Computer Science Unplugged.
They actually have a piece on it. Can use it.
Yeah, the computers. You want to say a little bit about what it is or how it
Yeah,
works?
so this Computer Science Unplugged is the website CSUnplugged.com. It's like a bunch of activities created by Professor Anthony from Australia Music.
Well, there's also people in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and they're like games for the students, most of the times games, other than games. Like without the computer, like using cards and like using drawing, teaches you like certain algorithms, how computer create pictures and how pixel works. And one of my favorite was the sorting algorithm, like with the oranges and the cups. You have to go down and try to sort the oranges.
It's kind of like
so fun.
it's like scripting tasks without a computer, right? So one of the activities that they'll have people do is they'll have sort of a maze, and then you have two kids, and one of them is blindfolded, and you have to give them instructions in order to go through the maze. And so you have to come up with a set of instructions, just like it would be like computer code. First, you need to go forward, then you need to turn to the right, then you need to go forward so many steps, that kind of thing. And so you learn about, you know, the idea of procedures and why you have to be complete in defining what your steps are, and if you miss one, what's going to happen, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I kind of like coding, but it seems fun too.
Plasticode.org, the website, is an awesome website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What were like the real popular coding things? Was it the Girls Who Code? Or?
So they had Code.org was a big one. The founder was there. He was a keynote speaker.
I missed it.
There was Codable, Lightbot, Khan Academy, JavaScript, Grook, I think it's just one O. Learning, and then there was like Python, Tinker, and Scratch. So those were some of the big ones. There's also this math one, Bootstrap World. So it's like a math curriculum, but it has a lot of coding. So at the end, the whole kind of like carrot at the end of the stick is that they're going to build a video game. So the students are going to build a video game, but they have all this math that they have to do in order to create the video game.
That's a little bit. We have a class that runs here in the summer for middle school kids called Science, Art, and Computer Games. And it's similar. You talk about the science of projectile motions, and then you can build an Angry Birds game that actually works like the science.
I would say also, first of all, thank you. I think that really resonated for me was the idea of being kind online.
Yeah.
How people hide behind the keyboard and say whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have a discussion with my students.
So look at Common Sense Media. They already have like some curriculum, some lessons.
Who's you?
Common Sense Media is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
They have some lessons like for all different kinds of grade levels already set up for you, like different online things that they can do. The teacher that I saw present on this had like 9 different lessons she wanted her students to do before they were able to access the computer or their iPad. And that was elementary. Yeah.
Susan also, teaching tolerance has a lot of kindness on it.
.org. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they have a lot of other stuff like bullying and things like that.
There's a couple of other coding environments that I've heard of recently. One is called Code Monkey, which is free at the moment, but it looks like they want to start charging at some point. And then there's one that's part of Minecraft. If you have kids that are really into Minecraft, there's something called Computer Craft that lets you create a robot, and it has its own sort of script, but it's kind of JavaScript-like, and then you can instruct your robot to go build a house for you, so you don't have to do it yourself.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft, yeah, it works in the game, which is cool. So because a lot of kids are really obsessed with the game, like my daughter.
Yeah.
So
May I ask?
I have 2. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Which one is this?
The 10-year-old is the Minecrafter.
Oh, it's weird. They start
Oh, she started years ago. Yeah.
My daughter's 5. She watches Minecraft.
Yeah, right. You got to watch all the videos to find out how to do stuff. Yeah. And you know, it's really interesting, and we're going to read some Jim G later in the semester, because that was really what he got all sort of focused on, was this idea that kids would really just get interested in some topic, whatever the topic is, and go deep into, you know, whether it's dinosaurs or, I mean, you all know like kids that just get obsessed with dinosaurs, and they can tell you the name of these dinosaurs that you've never heard of, and they've developed all this sort of deep knowledge. And the thinking is that that's a very useful thing, that going deep on some topic, no matter what it is, it could be, it could be Britney Spears, it could be whatever, but just having something where you've actually forced yourself to learn things beyond your age level is a really useful thing, because it gives you that sort of training in how to do research and how to understand some subject area.
You see the guy with the learning through video games or whatever that you talked about a while back?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which week we can squeeze that one in. But we've got a couple of other important readings to do first, and so we're getting there. That was there anything else you wanted to? Okay, well Q is very timely this year because of course we're trying to figure out our research project. Nobody's on the Hangout, right? Just want to make sure. Nope.
We started using this guy from where he started a little after school club today.
Nice.
We started on
And you mentioned maker spaces also.
Oh yeah, they talked about maker spaces. I have to do more. Maybe we can read into that more. But basically, you create a room where students can come into, and then they create different things that I can't quite remember. But it was a big topic too.
It's kind of like the old wood shops,
Yeah.
except more high tech.
Yeah.
Not racist. The 3D printer is actually, the 3D printers are getting very popular right now.
Yeah.
I'm planning to purchase one. Students want to design the computer, they 3D print it out.
Yeah.
The parts of the robot.
Did Chang show you the 3D printer last semester?
He showed us a little ornament he made. I remember he made an
What?
ornament.
Oh, come
But he didn't show
on.
us the printer.
Yeah, he's got one in his office that
Yeah.
the department bought. Come on, he's being stingy with that thing. All right.
He showed us he made a little bear, so an
All
ornament.
right. I think next what semester is that? Yeah, in the fall. I think there's a class where you're going to get to use the 3D printer. So we'll figure out class that is 671. That comes up in the fall. All right, I keep forgetting where we're at. But yeah, so we'll do some of that, and that class also has coding in it. We're gonna make some apps. Everybody's gonna learn how to make an app, especially if you don't know how.
That's the point.
If you don't really learn anything if you already know how. So that's coming up next semester. Cool. Let's see. Okay, so as I was saying before, this is very timely because we're at this point where we really have to decide what's our master's project going to be, right? And we talked about this last week, and I showed you the portfolio instructions, right?
Yeah.
You guys remember looking at this?
Yep.
This idea about the portfolio, and then you've got to decide if you're on the research project side or if you're on a development project side.
Whatever you recommend.
Research is easier. Yeah. But what a lot of people have wanted to do is something sort of in the middle where they're developing a little bit and then they're doing research on it, and that's fine. One of the things that has been successful with that is that people wanted to do both research and development is to, instead of taking a course like a 671 course, which is kind of optional, they can do an independent study course where they're basically working on developing something and then use that thing that they've developed for their research. Right?
It can be a curriculum.
Yeah. You could do a curriculum and then you do research on how well the curriculum works, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you've got a big development idea and you know exactly what you want to build, I'm looking over here, then you're going to do something that's not really going to include much research. It's all going to be about the development, but there's this bar that you have to convince people that this is a unique thing that hasn't been done before, and
In my case, I have an intro to technology and engineering class for 9th grade. That was thrown at me, and I accepted the challenge 5 years ago. And I've developed it into this most popular class at the school.
excellent.
So can I?
I've seen some of the videos.
Can I use that as my thing? Like do some research within the class and see and evaluate.
Yeah, you want to do a research project on your class you developed? That sounds great. But you've got to define what your research questions are. What are you trying to figure out?
The research project doesn't have to be something totally original with development, it has to be something totally original.
Right.
So if the research is just like, I wanna see how using doctor posting paper increases student feedback, increases student performance due to timely feedback.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so it's research. It can be things that have been done before. Of course, if you're doing stuff that's been done before, you got to cite what's been done before in the literature and say how yours is different or how yours is testing something because you have questions about it or something. You have to have a reason for doing it in your study, but that's pretty easy to come up with a reason because every context is unique, right? Your class is going to be different from somebody else who did a similar study, right? So it's not too hard to come up with a reason for why you repeat it.
I remember you said that we can't do a website for a project, right?
So, I mean, I never say can't, but you'd have to say what it is about the website that's going to be this unique that you're talking about doing a development project.
Well, now, I've been working on this website, and it's a brand new project. I'm trying to get general ed teachers to implement social skills curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't been successful before because the teachers don't have something to report to, so I've been trying to develop a very clear website that they can have all of the materials present on. So I guess one thing I'm thinking of doing a study where I would study, they have a control group that didn't have access to a website and curriculum and just the books, and then another group that has everything in one place. And see if they
Would that be a study of the teachers or a study of the students?
has to be with students. Well,
No.
and indirectly it has to be. I mean, indirectly it'll benefit students.
Somebody else was doing a study of teacher training, right? Who was that? Verity, is that you? Yeah. No, yeah, you can look at teachers and trying to train teachers. If that's part of your job, something you're interested in doing, totally. That's something we're very interested around here.
So basically, I mean, it wouldn't be specifically about the website. It's just the tool that I'm trying to use to train teachers.
Right. So, I mean, it sounds like you've already got at least some of your website. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. It sounds like people have lots of ideas, but we need to. Now is the time where we've got to make some decisions and come to some conclusions. And so, and I'll get your question in just a minute. But so that was the purpose of the reading this week. Was talking about sort of what are the research agenda around this thing called Web 2.0. So it's already dated, right? But it has some ideas about the directions of web research on that. That's obviously not the only thing to do, right? The computational thinking, flipped classrooms, maker spaces, all sorts of different ideas are also out there, right? So it's just not the entire world of possible projects, but it did have lots of different ideas in there. And I also brought in some books to kind of, I just wanted to sort of pass these around. If people wanted to look at things. The Q conference, even if you didn't get to go, you can look and see what some of the talks were about online. That's another way to get ideas of, oh, hey, what's some interesting things that are going on right now that I could try in my class and do some research on. So I'll just hand around some of these. So this is the Jim G book that I was referring to earlier. We're going to read, I think, the intro chapter in this. And then just some other sort of interesting topics around. I'll pass these around the other way. So, and if you've already got a topic, then you don't need to investigate that too much. But for people that are stuck and still trying to think of what that thing is going to be, we want to have some good ideas. So what we're going to do. So the last week we posted this research ideas round 2, and people got their posts in on that. And this week we're going to come up with. Hey. Cool. And so I'm not going to be here next week, but I do want to be available to talk to people since this is sort of a critical week and we've got to make some decisions on this and people have questions on this. Is I wanted to have the ability to just talk with people a little bit about their ideas and make sure everybody was okay. And so I'm trying this doodle thing. I don't know, have you all done this? Doodle scheduler thing? So I don't know much about it, but I'm trying it. So I think the idea here is I blocked off times when I'm busy, which is like most of the time next week. But there's a few times that are available, and so people can go in and find a half an hour or something when you want to talk, and then we can either talk through via phone or Google Hangout or Skype or something like that, and talk about your project and what you're going to do. I'd like to talk to everybody. If we don't, if you don't have time and times don't work out, that's okay. But I'd really like to make sure everybody's got a plan that we're moving forward with. What's going to be the first thing that we're going to do once we figure out what our topic is?
Research.
Exactly right. You guys remember what we did with the objective study. As soon as we had our topic, we said, let's go find out what the world thinks about this idea. All right, so we get online, and we start doing research. Where did we go to find research?
A bunch of places, Google Scholar.
Google Scholar,
Internally.
the Ovia Library website, Eric, some of those other places you can go to. And what's hard about finding literature on our topic? What do we need to figure out?
Get real name stuff, just naming stuff is a challenge.
Yeah, what do people call things, right? Because if you're calling it something and other people call it something different, you're not finding any of their literature. Right? So you've got to figure out what are some of the things that people might refer to this at. So looking at some papers like the one from this week might give you some ideas, because it refers to a lot of buzzwords in there. There's a lot of references to different papers, so you can find a paper that might help you find another paper.
Is this doodle scheduled yours? Those hours go kind of late, and you have a family. I mean,
Yeah, but I'm out of town next week.
Yeah.
Family's here. I'm on the East Coast, so
See you later, pal.
it's all good.
That's why he's busy from 10 on, happy.
Although it's 1 a.m. on the East Coast.
It's always-
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Those are all-
So anyway, so that's the idea, is that we're going to try to do this, to do some scheduling. So go ahead and get your I guess their requests in. How do they phrase it?
You ready? Let's do it, right?
Yeah, I could talk after class a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, hair is back. So you click on here, and what do? You put your name on it.
It's a healthy flock right there.
Yeah, so then you just say who you are and what you want to talk about.
So that's for the 13th, right?
That's for next week, anytime next week,
Oh, what about this?
whether there's a strike or not.
No, I put Friday, is that good?
Friday's fine. I blocked off everything that I thought I was not available for.
And a link to that, oh, there it is. Google Site.
Doodle sign up. That's the one. Cool. All right. Questions?
Yeah, just back to the response about the research project and development.
Yes.
Development says description and tool and testing. Are we actually testing the thing, or are we just, it's developing?
So if you're doing a development project, there's a testing, which is different from research. It's kind of like focus groups. We put that in so that it makes sure there has to be a thing that people can look at. It may not be still beta, right? But there has to be something that kind of works that people can kind of play with in order to sort of say, okay, I did a thing, I made a thing. And so we do some pretty light kind of testing.
Yeah, local stuff. I think as far as development using the summer to really get it going, but I wouldn't have to have it ready by next school year. But that's right, I can kind of push that off.
Yeah, no, the testing can be done next March or something like that. If the development takes that long.
Okay.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to.
Hopefully.
You need to still write it up still, so you don't want it to go too long.
But I mean, it's not like the research where you're doing a lot of research.
Yeah, the research, you got to collect a bunch of data, you got to do some analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have to collect statistical data? No, you do not.
What happened?
Right, you do not have to collect statistical data. What are the other kinds of research besides quantitative research? Qualitative research. Qualitative research, and I was just talking with Mark, who's a year ahead of you, and he's really stuck because he's in a weird school and he only gets like 10 kids a day, and it's different kids every day, and he's like, how am I going to get stats on this? It's like, you don't need stats. right? So I'm recommending for him that he does some case studies of students where he spends some time interviewing students and watching them work and sort of examining their progress and writes it up as a case study. That's a very long-standing tradition of education research. And it's very qualitative. You don't need any data in the form of numbers, but you need data in the terms of interviews and observations and student work where you can analyze things. And so that's perfectly good. You don't have to collect stats, so don't think just about stats. And ideally, I don't know if I've said this before, but ideally, I think it's always good to have both stats and qualitative data. That's the best kind of study because you have that rich qualitative data so you really understand what's going on, and then you've got some stats that say, hey, this really does happen for lots of different students. It's not just this one person, right? So that's sort of the best of both worlds. But you don't have to have both. You can be all qualitative. You can be all quantitative. Either way is going to work. So you just want to match the methods for your situation and for the questions that you're going to ask, right? So the key thing, of course, you got to figure out is what am I trying to figure out and why am I trying to figure out it? Am I trying to solve a problem here? What's the what's not going well in my class that I want to try and improve, or what do I think I can make better? Did you have a question?
Yeah, like our school our district is piloting 2 new textbooks for English next year. Both of them are hybrid, paper and electronic, but can be 100% electronic. It's cool if I use I wanted to see if student output, not necessarily the quality of the output, but is there an increase in output if they're given a digital option, like typing versus writing? It's cool if I use their curriculum and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If there's some tool out there you want to study that tool. Right. Yeah. Now be careful though. If you do your study is based on kids choosing one thing or another, and nobody chooses one thing, then your study's not very good.
I was thinking one has to be hybrid, where I'll actually use the technology the way that the rest of the district's going to, and one has to be all digital.
Right.
With no paperwork at all, and see if that improves.
So you got to figure out what your question's going to be about that. So what do you want to know?
That actually gives me another idea about typing. We figured out in school when students are taking aspects of testing, and they're very poor typing skills, and smart analysis requires a lot of typing, especially in reading science and math. So you have to type a lot. So just came in mind, maybe I check students typing rate, typing ratio, how many minutes, words per minute they type. Is it most likely to do better in the reading if they type faster than other students? Do you think that?
So you're going to do better in the reading?
Faster, if they're good at typing, are they most likely to do good in smart balanced reading section?
In the reading section, or where they have to write a response?
Yeah, they have to write extensive
That's right, yeah.
responses.
I think he's asking if
That-
writing typing.
So then maybe you want to have an intervention to see if you take a group of students and improve their typing skills and see if that makes a difference on the test or something like that.
Yeah, to give them typing classes next year, especially with schools.
Yeah. Yeah, the timing on that's a little difficult.
There is interim assessments, but I don't think you can. I don't think you can get the data though.
Yeah, you get results.
You get results, but you don't get individual. You get a score, but you're not able to see it.
Individual districts can, because our district, we get person by person everything.
Even for the
That's for the
intern?
high school, so I don't know if it's different. But yeah, for the intern, we
Because
get
my
everything.
kids, they took the interim, but I was only able to see their score.
And also for you,
each
the
student.
blocks, you
So
can get.
check at your school, see what they get.
They're able to get the score before year ends. So do you think
Yeah,
that
right. So
could,
the timing is such that ideally you want to have your data collected by next December or maybe January. You want to have all your data collected. You can push it to February, but you really don't want to go much beyond that because you got to analyze it and you got to write it up. It seems like it should be easy, but it takes a long time to write these things out. Yeah.
I have a question to ask. It's not related to our topic, but since you brought up typing, in your opinion,
And I have lots of them.
yeah, about typing today, is it something that is worth pushing as much as some schools do focus on it? Because the kids, you give them a phone. I did that test once. At the end of the year, I gave them a typing test on their phones, so they had to text me. And they all type very fast when they're using their thumbs on their usual devices. That was like 3 years ago. So what is your opinion about typing without looking? Like hide the cover the hands and type. What do you think?
I mean, obviously typing's important. I think it gets picked up pretty easily by kids that use computers a lot. I feel like my daughter's school, they did some typing in their computer lab, and she really liked it, so she would like go home and play with the yeah, the with the British voice and whatever, I don't know. Yeah, she really loved it, and that seemed fine to me. You know, have people do it at home when instead of watching the TV, have them practice typing when they're in elementary school.
By middle school.
By middle school, hopefully they've done enough and they've got it, but obviously not all of them have. I mean, this is one of those things that changes year to year, and each year they get better at it and better at it because they've just spent more time on devices.
Well, when little they start typing faster and faster, but the touch typing, they go touch typing without looking at the keyboard using 10 fingers.
Yeah.
That's like another.
Yeah, they're doing the. Yeah.
So maybe funny on that. Like,
yeah.
It doesn't make a difference pushing for them to do touch typing.
I would hate to spend a lot of time on it when you could be doing something like coding. That irritated me about my daughter's school. It's because they didn't do any coding and they did lots of typing. But, yeah.
Maybe it is.
I can see it. Yeah, I mean that's one of those things where it's a good question. It's not terribly theoretical, but we can come up with some kind of theory for it. I'm sure. Transfer, right? Transfer our skills to the test.
Because what I always believed in is as soon as they figured out how to make the keyboard cheaper, maybe it will be swipe typing, like people on Android phones.
Maybe, or we'll just be talking into our computers someday. Won't have to type anything.
Yeah, that's essentially
do that. It's already in Google Docs.
We talked about cars,
Exactly.
Siri.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll think about it.
It's good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I added a response to the reading here, and I want to. That's new. I just added that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I forgot to put a discussion thing up. So this was the reading for last week. I hope people had a chance to take a look at it. It starts with the history and. You know, it talks about this thing called Web 1.0, which nobody ever called Web 1.0. We just called it the web, right? Right. And those of you who remember those days, you know, the web was pictures and text and links, right? I mean, that's what it was. And your links would take you to other pictures and text. And then eventually they figured out how to do things like have a box where you can enter some information. And then they figured out that you could store that information in a database somewhere and then have a page get generated with information based on what you've entered. And then all of a sudden the web becomes very interactive. And the key, of course, was the databases, right? Once they figured out how to make these databases. So all the web pages you go to nowadays, like Moodle, have these big databases that back up everything. And all your information is located in these massive databases. And so instead of having web pages, it now generates the whole web page on the fly based on your information, and then it pushes out this sort of custom-made web page to you about your class and your test scores and all your stuff, and it's great.
It's the whole PHP here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or Java Beans or whatever, however you want to do it. But that's really the key. Is PHP is the scripting language, and then MySQL is the database that a lot of people use. Which runs behind a lot of our websites. Hey, Let's see. I guess I'll just have you write something real quick about this paper. The prompt is just find something in this paper that sort of struck you about Web 2.0, and sort of elaborate on why that's useful for education. And so it could be something in here. Maybe there's something that she left out, or they left out. I guess there's several authors on this. So let's take a few minutes and do that right now, and then we can see what each other put on there. And again, thinking of things about, what things that we can study in our classes, things that might make a good research project. That idea. Maybe it won't be a research project for you. Maybe your idea will be a research project for somebody else.
Where is the paper itself?
The paper itself is under last week.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to last week, it's Greenhow, Roblia, and Hughes. It's a. What's that? And then you can post. I just posted this this forum right here. It's called Response to Greenhow. Did everybody get to see all the books? I don't know if they made them all the way around.
I didn't see all of them, but yeah, I thought multimedia.
So this one sure is in really good shape.
Yeah, nobody reads that one.
Oh, God. But you're ready. I didn't know you were tied down with G. Evidently, you and he are like.
Okay, so Mark is referring to the book that I edited along with Cynthia Ching up at UC Davis, and there's a quote from Jim G on the back of it saying what a great book it is. That is pretty clear that he hasn't read any of it.
Oh,
it's because everything he wrote was really, really wrong. He wrote that it was really cutting edge stuff, and the way that the book worked, and we had started it in 2001, and it didn't end up getting published until 2012. It just took forever, and we switched publishers like 2 times, and so yeah. And then G writes, "This is cutting edge stuff." We're like, yeah, no.
It's a wildly good read.
We still think it's a good book, but it's not that. Whatever. I'm sure the publisher paid him to write that. But that's all right. Yeah, go out and buy a copy. It's now out on paperback. I think I sold a couple.
So do they keep a record of who buys them just in case we buy them?
No, you will get no credit in this class for buying it.
You're not one of those evil professors that does, students biology.
Yeah, we have some of those on our faculty. Okay. All right. So we're gonna respond to Greenhow, and then I want to play with some stats. Oh, the other thing, for those of you, when you get finished with this, I put a link to the EdTech MA website, which I was showing people at the end of last week. It's back online after a 3-month absence from the internet, but we're back, and I think we're working fine. And one of the things that's on here is you can look at the work of the previous cohorts.
Yeah.
And so you can look and see the abstracts of all the research that people did. So if you want to know what Sandra Caesar did, you can check out her abstract on there. And you can see some of the different projects that people were working on. That's another place you can go to get ideas of what kind of a feasible master's research type project. There's some development projects on there that you can check out. And see, I don't have them labeled though. See, who did it?
But you can sort of just, they're only abstracts, you can kind of blow around really quick.
Yeah, exactly. Janice's.
Which is interesting too, because what's nice about these is it really helps us scope.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to reinvent the wheel or just, expand the frontier of knowledge by a couple millimeters.
And of course, you know that you will all be added to this illustrious list.
Choo-choo.
Yes, you very people.
So if we get our thing published, does that give us an entree to the big?
Yes, that's the way to get into the big bucks.
Well, unless I go one of those pay to publish places.
You might have to go get a doctorate somewhere.
Oh.
Just one of those things.
I think there's just one identified one again. Actual question. Make sure it's in the right place.
They're doing clickers next door. You've never seen them.
Clickers or plickers?
Clickers.
I showed them all.
You did it
Yeah,
all
you're a
right.
clicker guy. We haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
clickers.
That's the science card. They don't know anything about technology. Don't ask me why they're doing clickers.
They're said to be effective. The vendors told me that.
Depends on how you use them.
Mhm.
So since current research.
Same can be said about 30 caliber revolver. Depends how you use it. It's concealed.
Bless you. Planning document. Where's the project planning document?
Can I write a bold report about that?
All right.
Okay. You ask yourself.
Right.
Not the excitement.
They did the wrong
Gotta
button.
be off yourself.
Oh, no.
How are you feeling?
Oh. I hit add a new discussion instead of submit.
Wait.
Oh.
Is it bad that I keep moving things around my website?
Yeah, I have no idea where they are.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I press Command Tab and I type in what I want. And I find
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, so you
The
didn't
one you
bother
just
with
built,
his
that was the
organizational
first one.
schema.
You put April 6th hard deadline of 2 years ago, but then
That's right. I gotta update the.
it's like I get confused.
Yeah, the deadlines are confusing for sure. What's next week? What's to say?
Friday the 13th falls on Wednesday.
Oh. You can tell how behind we are.
I feel the same at school. It's all the same. Who are the two guys, Clark and who? That discussion.
Kozma.
Yeah. Cosmo was the one saying the medium isn't that big.
No. He's saying it's important. Clark is the doubter. He's the tomato truck guy.
Okay, I was pretty cool.
Yeah, your picture is above my picture. I'm like, I love your, like,
There's a senior girl
like,
farm
over
like
the
this.
shoulder.
Sugar and feeling was like Converse and.
But it's with that.
Getting far down
They're
here.
called fairy guys.
Just to let you know on your,
Oh, yeah.
text server, your root,
I had to have that.
page is 52 default page.
Everyone took that and put them in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta fix that.
Yeah.
Didn't know if you knew.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked my old page, but I think I feel like I need something new for the new server. I can't go back to the old server landing page. Gotta move forward.
Motion for the purpose of.
Exactly.
Make it happen.
Don't get stale.
It's a great time to be alive.
Because you can do motion for the purpose of.
I like your picture up
Oh,
there.
It's like 4 years old.
I quite agree.
never.
I'm gonna take my breaks.
I like to say,
And it's
Picture of
changing.
me on a computer when I was like a one,
mine's
the
5 years
computer's like massive.
Okay.
I had to put it on and like, everyone's like technology. Up to date.
Nice.
So, I'm
Like, actually,
There's a.
Like this.
yeah.
Yeah.
But other than the hairline.
Cool.
I even had the big
Inventing printing.
And then let's see, what do we do? Do this.
That's what
This is the
computers
second
do.
one.
have curly hair.
Dr.
Yeah.
Foley, what was?
Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah, I know why that makes sense. You were telling us about words, like technology and education and like search.
I think
I know
Eric
this all the time.
is generally the one for education.
Not us, Eric.
Oh, this is nice.
Well, there's several different versions of Eric that you can go
Yeah,
to.
it's capital ERIC.
That one. Uh-huh.
You never have to see him.
Well, I was actually, was it still? Teachers are like, oh,
It should be the most recent one. Somebody just got ahead of me.
they don't have to, everybody doesn't know that. And like our school is money on stuff that literally is in boxes. Like you go to the classroom, it's like, it's in a box.
Don't you hate that?
It's in a box, like,
What's in a
you
box?
lose it.
People didn't know.
That's the projector.
Technocrat that people buy.
Training.
Some-
We do
We're
training.
going
We
one to
don't
one,
know.
that is, I'm pretty excited.
This is
They do.
This is what I think we should.
And if I'm
Right,
mandatory,
but if you
and if you don't do it, it's like this. They
I'm
don't
not trying to
change
convince
the
them
position.
that
Right?
they coordinate.
Yeah, and they don't learn how to fight.
So that's great.
So should you really face
No, that's what I'm thinking about, like, teaching.
This was pretty mitigated, 2 sessions, the first session was like.
Yeah.
No.
So that teachers
Yeah.
don't buy it. Donuts.
I was like,
I think that's what you're paying.
I don't feel that, but I feel like it's like so necessary because there's so many people who actually want help. Otherwise, you just have to prove it.
They don't have standard and no, that's my thing, is that.
Yeah. Oh, no, you got like I'm making sure you do that.
Are we in compliance?
Yeah. Are we in compliance?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're all hired to do that. Training the guy.
Oh, and
I
then,
to go to the but he's like, that's not my job.
And all I
It needs to be job. He's like, I already teach you and job, and so you know my
so I
position.
chose.
Would you not?
Oh, I just want to give them a lot of programs. It's like, you
Even if it's one person,
Well, I think the
And I
more
used to
we
say
talk
before,
to our computer teacher about it, if we were to give teachers,
here's the
You ask the
lesson.
question instead of just walking around.
Like,
Just get the-
all you have to do is read from here and film the person whatever topic is on. But here's the lesson. Like, we're gonna do it.
As soon as I would do that, like half of us.
Just read through that 15 minutes.
Cause I'm starting with
Get back.
I've already done
15 minutes.
one of my
And then
We didn't do much.
how many of them work?
I'm not listening, they're asking questions like that.
So that's-
Yes, we don't.
I can see that now.
Yeah,
but I can see
that. Yeah, no, but it's just, it's frustrating, that's how I.
Everybody can make that
And
one.
then, so then I just, that's like,
That's the
whatever,
other thing that's expensive.
I'll just make like.
Cool. So I'm just writing down what the key ideas are. Did everybody get their response in already?
So instead of 1,000. Seriously.
I just want
like, I'm just
stuck
stuck
out
on
on the side of the door. Full of.
Oh, what?
my.
Whiteboard.
I don't wanna, I don't wanna,
I've been taking.
I only use two.
I don't wanna know.
I've used them all year. They have.
Technology.
Yeah.
So all I do is
But-
already. That's blurred.
Well, and, but the thing is, like, if we use it, we'll get more, like, we really will.
Basic.
Matt held it fishing for 20%.
I did that with. I like that.
How many of your students will answer your questions in class by just going to Google? And they'll,
What?
so if you have a question in class and you're like, oh, I don't really know how this, and then somebody looks it up for you. in the middle of class.
On something,
Yeah.
I tell them that Google
Yeah,
it.
I told them,
That's good.
That's part of the flow.
They ask me something, I'll be like, Google it.
I pretend to know every
When I
answer.
have,
Like, what do they do when they have them?
like, what, why are you asking this?
Google
Go find out.
Yeah.
It's like, I do this every week.
We'll
Mm-hmm.
teach you a lot of times something.
Very
on the
confusing
box,
thing.
like you watch.
Yeah, I was in a teacher's class and that was happening. He kept saying, he was like, I don't know really why this is. And you move on to the next topic, and then a second later, somebody go, oh, I can tell you.
I used to always.
It wouldn't be 60.
My kids here don't make me up on it. I'm not sure why.
Interesting.
I have cultural, like,
Sure enough, someone's like,
difference that they're not as.
"Wait, we got 14 we got computers.
It is working.
But what are you saying? I want to study straight.
I'll do that all the time.
Or maybe it's the fact that I'm so ninth grade versus.
I probably want to.
Right.
I'm like more independent.
Mhm.
It's
All
amazing.
All right, I think I've been through everything. Let me see if there's a couple more. Oh, no, I haven't done this one.
I'm just.
Turn it on, tips and traffic.
But see, I don't think it'll be an issue if it's one class and you do like 10 minutes.
$2,
How long do we?
$298 to put it.
That's my lunch now. How long does our activation have to go on for?
Yeah. Oh, how long? The final paper or the proposal?
The final, but the research, like, do we do 10 weeks on, 10 weeks off, like 10 weeks of technology and 10 weeks without technology for the semester, or is that too short of a time span to get anything worthwhile?
That's a pretty long time span. I mean, you could do 2 weeks. You could do one week on, 1 week off. Yeah.
Well, because we were monopolizing all of our school's technology to complete what we want to do.
I mean, you want to do it long enough that you think it'll have an effect, right? A week, maybe not enough time. 10 weeks probably is pretty good.
Yeah, I could do a whole chapter, I could do a whole unit. My chapter's too long. I mean, all of my units are written from the
The remixing.
It's all kind of small, and they're all digital.
Cool.
I can do it.
All right, a lot of good things that got pulled out of the reading. I can tell people got a lot of interesting stuff from that. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because that's the problem, I just, get Christie to ask a question in class, you get no one responding, but you get them to the form. Yeah, you get them to the form and all of a sudden everybody knows everything.
So the ideas that I'm seeing in here, digital natives or not so digital natives, the disconnect between school and outside of school, the digital disconnect, that outside of school everything's very digital and in school not so much, especially in college class. And the ability to do communication, to do 24/7 communication, to get online and find out what your homework is, being able to see that. The use of video, that's people are saying this is one of the big sort of shifts that we're seeing right now is people are reading less and watching more videos because people are good at like doing these little targeted 1-2 minute videos to teach a specific topic, and that's what you need. So you watch that video and then you move on to the thing. I don't know if that's a good trend or not. Obviously, reading is probably still a useful skill, but maybe not. I don't know. Getting feedback, the ability to look at lots of data on spreadsheets and analyze data, the ability to do collaboration, especially collaboration across time and space. And one of the things that they talked about was the ability for, say, kids to collaborate with adults and be part of groups and to form sort of groups of things that they're interested in. So like in the old days, if a kid was really into dinosaurs, they would go to the library and get a book on dinosaurs. And that's cool, and you can learn a lot that way. But now they can go on to the dinosaur blog and start posting questions and getting paleontologists to respond to them, and they can be part of this whole sort of mixed age, mixed country, all sorts of groups that can I don't know. We don't really know yet how that changes learning, but we think it's important, right? There was the talk about identity, right? Is that something that's something that hasn't really come up in this class yet? We're going to talk more about identity next semester. There was where'd that book go?
Your book?
Yeah, that book. So yeah, the book that we worked on is called Constructing the Self in a Digital World. So it's all about identity construction. The idea is that part of what growing up means is figuring out who you are, right? And you have to develop your identity as a student. You have to develop your identity as whatever that subject is that you're going to be into. If you're a musician, if you're a scientist, if you're a mathematician, you've got to develop that identity of yourself as that thing, and so for each class that they take, they have to somehow sort of identify with it, or they're really not going to be learning anything. So they have, if they don't identify with it in some way, you're not going to get that learning. And one of the interesting things is that the virtual worlds and the sort of immersing yourself in social media and things like that is really all about identity play. Right? And so that you can take on different identities when you go online. And this is the same kind of thing that we got to do in education. So that was sort of the idea of the book, is to try to connect the sort of identity, the fluidity of identity online. Like when you go and play a game, you can take on these different roles. You can be a troll, or you can be, I don't play a lot of role-playing games, but there's lots of good roles that you can take. But then also you want to take on identities as in academics, right? So one of the big arguments about using games for learning is that you can go onto a game and play a scientist and have that be part of your game. Is, oh, I get to be a scientist, and then you sort of build that identity. And you can try it out to sort of see, hey, is that a real thing? And so the idea of building identity and using technology as a way to build identity is a key research area that people are interested in. They talked about that a little bit in the book, in the paper that we read. There's a couple of people that got cited in that paper a lot, and you probably saw that they were coming up over and over again. The first one is the sort of original guy, Winchell, and I haven't seen him for a while, but he was in the early days of EdTech. He was their big name, and then people like Chris Deedy, Jeremy Rochelle is still a really key person, sorry, this cough, and Mimi Ito gets cited in here a couple of places. Let me see if I can figure out where she is. But hopefully you start to recognize some of the names, and you see the same names over and over again. So, so that let's see, where did they talk about computer-supported collaborative learning? Oh yeah, so here they talk about Stahl and Koshman and Scardamelia and Bereiter. I guess we haven't talked about them too much. They had that program called Cecil that I've mentioned a few times. Henry Jenkins is a professor of media studies down at USC. He's very does a lot of really interesting stuff. Anyway, so there's a lot of good names on here, and so if you find a topic that you're interested in, you can go. Oh, there's Mimi Ito. She's down at UC Irvine now. And so there's lots of connections, and so this is a good paper to sort of build off of. If you're like, oh, I'm interested in this topic, let's find somebody who's writing in this area and see what they're doing, and then connect to different papers. And so it's a good sort of way to branch out. Cool. All right. So we looked at the paper. We looked at some books on topics. Did anybody look at those abstracts from past couple of cohorts? Those topics are out there. If you see an abstract and you're like, oh, that sounds like a great paper, let me know, and I'll find you their paper so you can take a look at that. Academics has always been the original open source program. We always share our work, so you want to see what people have written before so that you can write something better. You don't copy and paste it, of course. That's what the kids do, and then they get in trouble for plagiarism. We don't do that. But we always share our work and everything. So if there's something you want to see, just let me know. Any other things that we want to talk about in regard to those paper or any of those topics that I mentioned? Yeah.
Actually, that explains the mystery that I found when I went to OVIAT, even before I was in this cohort, trying to find these papers.
Mm.
And I guess since you pointed out, well, yes, but they're not really theses because you got to do all this stuff. They actually are projects, hence they don't find their way into OVIAT evidently.
You're talking about the OVIAT master's thesis room.
Yeah, because I go in the room and there's all these down theses.
Yes.
It was, all kinds of off-the-wall stuff that you never heard of.
Right.
And you read a couple, and I didn't see the tech ones.
See, we're in a new era, so we just put them online. A couple of them you can see, like the ones from last cohort. We put some of the talks online.
Wait, talk.
So
you give a talk.
So yeah, that's a good.
It's like a mini defense.
Yes and no. All right, well, let's look on cohort 4 because there don't seem to be any. All right, here we go. There's Jake's. Oh yeah, we looked at this last week and it doesn't exist anymore, but you can try to click on it. Apparently, he took his presentation down.
Copywriting it. What was it?
So Jake Chips did a project where he basically did a flipped classroom project where he created videos for his calculus course, and he posted them online, and you can watch all his videos on his Beyond Calculus website, where he gets hits from like all over the world. Kids are like checking out
My
calculus.
students are so excited.
They like his stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. And he did an independent study course in order to build out that website, which no mortal person could actually do, but somehow he did it. But I mean, he's got 50 videos on there or something like that of himself talking and explaining concepts, kind of like Khan Academy style. And then he did research to see how it's doing, and he researched his class, and he did a whole semester of research, and so he got some great data on how the flipped classroom was working with his students, and it was interesting. It wasn't like, oh, it just worked for everybody. There were certain kids that really benefited and other kids that didn't seem to benefit at all. The interesting thing was, I think it was the middle kids that benefited the most. That the kids at the upper end, they were going to do fine anyway. The kids at the bottom, they weren't watching the videos. So
That's
there
kind
you
of your
go.
first thing.
Yeah.
Did you guys discuss that before?
No, not really. I don't think, if we have some time at the end, we can talk about that one. Tiffany did a really interesting project using this thing called Google Moderator, which no longer exists, but we can do something kind of like it, where kids would post things and other kids would vote on who had done the best response to the prompt. And so the kids sort of drove each other to this was a science class, and so they were creating scientific explanations, and so they were starting to fight for each other, one to see who had the best explanation.
I do that with English essays, because I
Cool.
can't handle reading them all, so they have to rank each other.
So did they read everybody's?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
It's round tables.
Oh, roundtables, yeah. So with Google Moderator, you were limited. It's kind of like Twitter, so you were limited to like 200 characters, and so everybody would read everybody else's in the whole class. This was really fun, and so that was really a neat project, and she had some good results from that. So you asked about doing a talk. The way that we have done it the last few years, and I haven't talked to the other faculty, but I'm presuming we'll continue with this because it's really fun. Some of you were there last year. We do what's called a poster fair at the end, where everybody makes a poster of their research or their development project, and then we pick 3 projects that we think were really awesome, and we have those 3 people give talks. And so that's why a couple of people had slides and everybody else just has an abstract. Cool, and it's really fun, and we invite families to come, and we invite alumni to come, and we invite the next cohort to come. And so we just have a big party. It's cool. How many were there last time? Awesome.
Cool.
So that'll be a year from May, right? So a year and a month.
2017.
Yeah, because cohorts don't overlap, there's not an odd number cohort
Exactly.
coming up next year.
Not in this program. We do in some of our others, and it's crazy.
Okay.
They go nuts trying to figure out who's who. No, we don't do that. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we've done enough talking about ideas for research. All right. Here's what I need you to do. Right. So we've done a couple of rounds of where did we do it? In spring break, we did a research project round 2, and we did the research project round 1 ideas a while back, but then I moved it. And so we've kind of been working out through our ideas and getting some feedback from myself and from other people, which is great. It's always good to get feedback from peers. So now, as the final step before you formally jump into your portfolio, I want you to do this thing called what do I call it? The project planning document. So the project planning document is just really sort of thinking through your idea in a way that's going to help you do the writing, right? So it's thinking through the idea, but in a way that will help you find the literature, figure out what you're really trying to say. Because a lot of times in technology, people are saying, does this technology help or not? And that's not really the question we want to answer. We got to figure out what's the problem we're trying to solve. What will this technology sort of do for us? What's its advantages? Not just the grade's going to get higher, but what's the method by which this technology is going to help us help the kids? And so we want to create what we call a hypothetical causal link. between the thing that we're going to do and the outcome we want to see. And I put an example. Discussion boards, increased participation in class discussion, more sharing of ideas, students get more feedback, and it leads to better understanding. That's a hypothetical one. So you want to create something like that for whatever project you're going to do. If it's typing, how is the typing going to help? How do we think this is going to help? What are the sort of intervening steps to seeing that outcome that we'd like to see, right? And then what we want to do ideally is not just measure the outcome, but measure some of those intervening steps to see if our hypothesis is really working the way that we think it is, right? That's not always possible, but ideally we can try to measure some of these intermediate steps. So the parts to this: write the short description of your project idea, couple sentences, something like that. The core idea. So what is the core of the thing that you're doing? It's something like, this is a study about using videos. This is a study about typing. This is a study about teaching teachers about using a particular technology, right? So what's the main idea that you want to do? And that's, again, trying to like define the terms. What's this study really about? So what are some of those search terms I'm going to use when I'm searching online?
So if I'm going to use, for example, a curriculum as the basis for my study.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to define what's that curriculum about. What's special about this curriculum?
Okay.
So you've got to figure that out. So
What's special about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what's the outcome you expect to see? Describe the link between your core idea and your outcome. Terms, any terms that you're familiar with that's relevant here? Is it a CSCL kind of thing? Is it something about feedback? Is there transfer involved? What's some of the buzzwords, right? And then, you're going to need to get into the literature a little bit. Who are some authors that have written about this, right? So you're not going to know that until you've actually gotten into the literature and started doing a little searching, found some papers, then you'll know sort of who some of the people are. And then the last part is just trying to scope out your lit review section, because so the proposal has 3 chapters, right? I think maybe I haven't mentioned this before. The proposal has an intro, a lit review, and a methods chapter. Those are the 3 parts to a proposal: introduction, lit review, and methods. And we're going to start by writing our lit review first, right? We'll get to the intro later, and we'll do the methods. The methods, of course, is what we're planning to do. So that's like sort of the heart of the proposal, right? But we want to do the lit review first. So when you write a lit review, you don't just write. This is one of the big problems that people always have with the lit review. They take a paper and they write a paragraph, and they take a paper and they write a paragraph, and then you see this all list of paragraphs where they've cited one paper in each one, and there's no structure to it at all. It's just a list of things they learned, right? That's not a good lit review. That was an example of what not to do. Sometimes I don't make myself clear. What we want to do is we want to organize our literature review into some key ideas. And so that part of this project planning document is, what are some section headings that you're going to have in this chapter, right? How are we going to break down this chapter? What are the key parts that you think will be in the literature review? You might be wrong. You might change it as you go. But we want to brainstorm some ideas early so that we have a sense of what we're looking for. Cool. All right. So this is due when? April 20th. So 2 weeks. Also due 2 weeks. What else is due in 2 weeks? All your data. Well, that's 2 things to do. We've also got a reading due in 2 weeks. Yay.
So this is for our proposal, or is this the proposal for next
This
year?
is the first step in the proposal. Is this project planning document?
On top of our action research.
Yeah, it's about your action research.
That's 2 different
This.
ones. I think you mean.
Oh, I was talking about this.
And you're also talking about business with the.
Okay, I'm confused. Is this about the posting thing for the kids?
No. This is for your master's project.
For the master project. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a different thing.
Yeah. And I know you're all busy. I know there's a ton of stuff going on at school, but we really can't get behind right now. We've got to get this stuff done. So we got to get our ideas work. So that's like priority number 1. We can get the objective study. We'll we'll muddle through that, whatever. But we've got to sort of get a good start on our projects because we're late
So,
in getting moving.
Did you get the chance to see what we proposed earlier?
I've seen several rounds and given feedback to some.
The use of movies, and now I'm torn between the use of movies, or should I go with that?
You can always post another idea. That's fine, and get some more feedback.
Just temporarily for this, and then I change later for next week. What do you think?
Okay. The advantage of not doing what you're saying is that when you write your 3 chapters, your introduction, your lit review, and your methods, those 3 chapters are the first 3 chapters of your master's paper. Right? So if you change your topic, you have to rewrite those 3 chapters. And you have to find all the different lit review. So ideally, you don't want to do that. Ideally, you want to pick your topic now and stick through with it for the next 13 months and get this and get your master's. Keep it simple. Yeah.
I need your help to sort of focus
Mm-hmm.
and narrow down what questions I need to be asking about this topic.
Right. So that's why we have the doodle poll sign up. That's why we have this doodle poll thing for a chance to talk individually about specific projects. And that's a great way to do that.
Do we need to sign up for the doodle?
Oh, yeah.
That's the idea. I'm trying to use some technology to do that.
Half-hour block is the appropriate goalie to burn up.
Okay. I'll give you a choice. We have limited time. Do we want to look at some more data and do some more stats? Or do we want to look at some examples of common research project papers?
I would do that, actually.
No. Okay, there's 2 sample papers up here.
We have our homegrown statistician.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Everybody needs that.
Yeah, you do.
All right, timer study sample, here we are.
Huh.
All right, so load this up, some appropriate amount. Okay, I think I took everybody's name off this, I hope I did. All right, so this was a paper from a few years back when we did a study about using timers in class. Much like you, they all did timers in their classrooms and they collected data to see what was happening and stuff like that. So it's a very similar project to yours, except with a different intervention. You were doing objectives, they did timers, but otherwise it's very similar. So these are a couple of examples of good papers. Your paper, you want it to be between 5 and 10 pages, double spaced, so that's not very long. You're not having to write a huge amount. A short little introduction like this, talking about the purpose of it. Why are we doing this thing? Why would we want to post objectives in the room? What do we think that's good about that? A section could be called Lit Review, could be called Background. You'll see both those titles in the literature. Some people prefer one over the other. There's not a set thing. With some citations. Now, what do we know about doing citations?
MLA.
No.
I mean.
APA format. How many of you know APA format? All right. Good. Yes. That is the basic thing. It's one of these things that in the old days we had to memorize a lot of stuff, and now we can just look it up online anytime we forget.
Download a template
But
and run it.
Yeah,
you-
we're template, man. That and,
So this is an example. They messed up their very first citation. This is not quite correct. They should have put the date right after the person's name. So there's 2 main ways that you're citing a paper. You're going to cite it and say, according to so-and-so, and then you put the date that they published it. So you're always going to use just the last names, no first names, no initials, just last names and dates. Otherwise, or you just say something that research shows this, and then you cite some paper in parentheses, names and dates, right? That's the primary 2 ways that you're citing papers in the text of your paper. Then, of course, this relates to citations or references in the back of your paper. They got more than 10 pages, didn't they? They got a lot of graphs.
your cup is blocking the thing in the back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go.
Where's their references? Oh, they didn't have references. Oh, what kind of sample is this?
C minus.
Oh, fail.
You got so many graphs.
Wait, is that really?
Yeah.
Graphs and
No, you're not gonna fail.
My
There's a lot of good things about this paper, but that is not one of them.
Gotta be.
There should be a reference list at the end. Now, how long is this lit review section? It could be a little longer. It could be a couple of paragraphs. You're talking about that. Where are we going to find the lit review for this objective study?
What we all did.
We already did it, right? And we even summarized it a little bit. We would go back to the web and go to, where did that stuff go? Not there. That, if you remember, if you go to the top of this page, you can go to this site here, and it has our papers here, and we have all of our citations in the lit review section that we did that very first week. And look at all this literature you have to choose from. Do you need to cite it all?
Anything that helps you.
No, cite the most important ones, right? 2 or 3 citations sounds perfect, right? So we're going to cite the most direct things that explain why we would want to do this study, right?
And this is the study that we're doing right now.
Now we've switched to talking about the objective study. Exactly. Yeah, I keep switching back between masters and objective.
It's been a long day.
No.
But we should.
It's good to check.
Thank you.
Okay. While we're here, this is also where you go to find out how to do APA stuff, right? If you want to know how to do APA stuff, you just look on this list here on the left side, and you see APA style here. And it says APA style, and it has basics of APA style, and it talks about how you cite things like this. Hold on, I'm getting there. Then at the bottom, you have the list to a whole bunch. I mean, there's tons of things. The OWL is definitely my favorite. I really like the OWL site. Don't go to this. The official website for APA, terrible.
Really?
And the book, it's like this. It is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous how thick the APA style guide is. And it costs like, I don't know, like $1,000 or something.
The
It's
official
like
website is the second thing that comes up on Google. OWL is first.
OWL's first.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oviatt Library has theirs, which is actually I haven't looked at it in a while. I hope it's still there. No, I hate that. All right, cheat sheet, is that one there? Oh yeah, this one's good. Very short, to the point. Gets you the stuff you want. APA has guidelines for things like the formatting of your headers and stuff like that. I don't really care. Right? Get your citations correct. Get your references correct. Do approximately. There's a few things like you want to label any figures you have. You got to make sure you label it. But other than that, we don't need your titles and headings to be in APA format. Those are boring looking anyway. But the place to find that is right here under thesis writing. Also, there's a whole page about writing your lit review chapter. And so that's useful, and it's got information about finding literature and how your review should look. Not long. It'll give you some ideas for what to do. So that's the idea of this whole website here. It's got everything you need to write your proposal, to write your master's, to do your research. This is your reference page for everything that you would need. Let's see, finding literature. There's a whole page on finding literature. So search tools, how do you get to the Oviatt, how do you get connected to the VPN, what are some of the top journals, right, on different subject areas, things like that. Cool. All right, so we've got a ton of stuff to do, right? All right, let's we didn't quite finish looking at that document. Where did that document go? Oh, here we are. All right, so this is their background section that they came up with for their thing. Remember, very short, keeping it simple. Just the most important things that you need here. Don't do this. Look at that. They got a year here with no name next to it. That's bad. I should put some annotations on here. Huh? All the things they did wrong.
I noticed some of the abstracts actually were funny in grammar.
Yeah.
Like the last cohort.
Yeah, a little bit. Cool. All right. So after the lit review section, your next section is your methods. Where are we going to get the information for what goes in our methods section?
Our methods section.
Yeah, we did it. We have a whole section on the website about what our methods are. We posted objectives. We talked what the objectives are. We did an exit ticket. We noted down their participation at what was the time? Halfway through class or something like that?
Yeah, approximation.
Approximately halfway through class. So that's what goes in our research methods, and you can see, each teacher's test, a timer was placed in a spot visible for students, yada, yada, yada. Right. Now, and then of course there's the results section. The results section is hard for us to know what's going to be there yet because we haven't seen our results, but we can kind of imagine that we're going to see the group of the data from when we have objectives and the group of data when we don't have objectives, and we're going to run some tests and see if that data is different. We're going to maybe do some breakdown by different types of classes, and depending on whether students liked the objectives or not. Yeah, p-values. 0.04, that's what you want to see, right?
Just barely made it.
Just made it. Yeah, probably. Right, then they even came up with graphs. This is the entire class's data all amalgamated together. This was the no timer group and the timer group on percent of students on task, right? So they actually saw a difference in the group with the timer, and then after a while the difference went away. But the interesting thing was the difference didn't go away because people got tired of the timer. The non-timer people started behaving better, and I have no idea why that is. Right? This line goes up over time. For no obvious reason, because they're not doing anything in that class.
And how many people in the cohort?
Like this one, it's like 20.
Okay. So that's 20 different teachers reporting.
Yeah, it's probably 15. Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. We had a bunch of people who weren't in the classroom that year.
It's usually when grades get posted, suddenly when you.
Maybe.
If it's close to quarter, close to.
Right, and I think this
Before
each
Christmas,
number here is a
yes.
day. So they went for 15 days. I don't know why they would have 15 days, but anyway. They also did some measurement at the beginning, middle, and end of class, and so they had some data on that. They measured whether people got their work completed. They saw a nice gain on that. And they used the timer. They found some good results. And then they did a survey at the end. How do you think it did? A lot of people said no effect. Some people said they felt motivated. So you can see people thought that was helpful. So anyway, you can get a sense of what they did. This paper is a little longer than I would recommend, but they've got some pretty graphs, which is nice. And then the last thing is the conclusion. So you write some kind of conclusion. Oh, by the way, when you do your data, you've got data from your class, and then there's the whole set of data from all of our classes together. Right? Yeah, we're primarily interested in the whole class, the whole group, but you want to say a little bit about what happened in your class too. And you might have some data, it may or may not be interesting results from your one class, but then we want to see the entire set in its entirety, right? So even if you're not in the classroom, you can look at that entire class set of data, and you've got that to work with, right? So does that make sense? Yeah, a little bit. Just saying. That would depend on me noticing it though, and I'm pretty bad at spelling, so you might be all right. Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's one example. The second example is a much shorter example, so maybe more relevant. Let's see. Where's our sample paper number 2? So I took all the header information off. They had put headers on theirs before. So this one, let's spell it up. All right. So again, they're talking about the timer study, and they summarized the purpose of the study. They went through the methods section, or they didn't have a section, but they went through methods, and then they talked about the data collection. They talk about what were some of the questions that they asked. All right, and then they reported. So they reported stuff, not completely ideally, but this is acceptable. So they're talking about the group that was on TAT. It must be the group with the timer and the not timer. They should have changed their data here. You know what? I think I put this on as an example of what not to do. Now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, this is not ideal. So what this is what you get from. I think they did this in Excel, but you get something similar when you do the Google Sheets, like we did a couple weeks ago. This is not a good way to report it. The way that the other paper reported it in the text and with graphs, this stuff is much preferable. And you also want to have the subject. You want to organize your paper by the different sections. Have a nice heading on it. Things like this. All right. Yep. Definitely, this is not the ideal format. Cool. And then they have a link to the data, which is interesting, but and that's totally fine to do. But you want your paper to be pretty self-contained. So you want to have all the important stuff in the paper. You don't want to just say, go look at some website somewhere. It is. Let's find out.
50-50.
50-50 chance? Success. Yeah, bless you.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, so this is what we're going to work on in 2 weeks. We're going to look at our data. We're going to figure out what our results are, and then you're going to be able to go home and write up this paper. And we've got to figure out when this is going to be due. I think I'm going to have the lit review due first, and have this due after the lit review is due. Does that make sense? I don't know. I hate to have overlapping things because it makes everything confusing. But I feel like we might need a little more time to work on this. And it's better to do the lit review because then your methods can build off your lit review. And so it's probably more important to get that one done first. Yes. So we're going to write the lit review chapter first, get some feedback on that, and then we're going to write the methods and the introduction. And that will and the 3 of those together will be due at the end of the semester. So that's around May 10th or something like that. So it's a lot of stuff due between now and the end of the semester. I know we're kind of piling on at the end. Yeah.
Jane made us write a proposal last semester. Can we use that as like an outline if our topic hasn't changed?
I would think you could.
Because it had the intro, it had a review, and it had
The methods.
Yeah.
Methods.
Yeah, let's see. There's a page here on writing proposals. Where is that?
I'm just saying, can we use that as a jumping off point?
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
That's on our website. Yeah.
Where is?
It is good.
Don't plagiarize yourself.
That's what, yeah, that was more of the question.
Oh yeah, here we go. So we have a page on action research proposals. This is basically what we're looking to have, and I don't know how much of this stuff is. So Verity, I don't know how much of this is in what you've got, but this is. Yeah, so it sounds good. One of the things that we're going to put on the end of that is a timeline, because we want to sort of make sure we've mapped out that we're going to be able to finish this in time for getting our degree.
It was very simplified. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Basically, Kyle's thing of, you know how some classes, if you write one in one class, you can't carry it to another thing. My topic hasn't changed. Can I just make it grow?
Yeah, no, I totally believe in getting double credit for things whenever possible.
Sounds good.
Some professors don't, and it's very troublesome.
No.
Especially when our master's program.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot to do. So yeah, so this is where we're going to end up, and you'll notice that there's an appendices at the end, which is where we're going to put things in, like if we have a test or an interview protocol or something like that, we can put that in our appendices. We may not have that ready yet. That may be something we're going to work on over the summer. But if you do have anything, you want to stick it in your appendix so that it's already there. And of course, by the time we write our final paper, you're full appendices with all kinds of useful, interesting things in it. Appendices are always fun. Cool. Other questions, things that you're wondering about? You got a date set?
How long is the actual?
Well, it varies a lot. I would say the shortest ones we see are probably 20 to 25 pages. The longest are like 80. They are. Some people write a lot. Some people write too much. Concise is good, but I mean, you've got 5 chapters, and you got a lot to put out in those 5 chapters. So, you know, that's 5 pages right there, because you want to put a page break between your chapters.
Sure thing.
So, there you go. Exactly. And you need an abstract, and you need a table of contents. You know,
There's a lot of stuff.
yeah, you got a lot of stuff to do. So you're saying Tuesday? Is that Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Tuesday evening, how do I,
So you do this.
like, we can't be on 5:15?
You can scroll down. There's a
I'm
scroll bar.
not able to scroll.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay, so.
I did the 2-finger scroll.
The 2-finger thing, okay, so once I set the time, let's say 8 on Tuesday, I can create a meeting at 8,
Okay.
8:15.
Put your info in there.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay, I think that's enough for tonight. We know we're not coming here next week. Next week, I am out of town, and the faculty are on strike. So, yeah, that's happening. Is there dinner tonight? What happened? You guys were doing so well, and then so that's gonna have 3 chapters.
You mean that I don't do with your 50,000?
Copy that
How
in.
do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? Yeah, you just see them take it out.
The objective study project, that's gonna be due, that's gonna be about 10 pages.
Yeah, a lot of people do, but there's
So it's
still
a
a
lot.
lot that's
Cities to
He's very
not-
Everyone's an advance on guys.
I paid for it.
Just saying.
I paid for it.
When could it be
outright
due?
the other day.
How many days
I
are
love
left?
this comment that Apple's like, look, our watch can do this.
All right.
Girl,
So it's not due
please,
next
once
week.
everybody else catches on, you know,
So there's this week. That's when the what is that thing called? The project planning document is due. The week after that, I think the lit review is due. So that is, what is that? That's the April the 27th. That's when the lit review is due. So then we'll probably have the common research project due that next week. So that's May 4th. Yeah, that's when that'll be.
Hi, I'm from next
Hello.
door. I'm sorry about the music.
Oh, that's
I'm
okay.
sure it was really loud. We'll turn it down. It's gonna happen again. Is it gonna interrupt your teaching?
Well, it's a different
I'm done
professor.
with class here, but there's another instructor in.
Coming in?
Coming in, yes. Yeah, we can always shut our door. We left it open.
And we got that lab in the middle, which really buffers the heck.
Yeah, we
Is
got,
there a is there
there's a
room
little room
Yeah.
in between.
I think
here? I
you go.
really thought it was like right here on the other side of this, and I just didn't want to disturb. That's all.
And they were singing happy birthday on the other side. We got it from both sides.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
All right.
Yeah,
Those
just
are
wanted
the
to.
two biggest things? Sorry.
Those are the main things we're doing. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry for coming in late.
Yeah, it's been out of time.
I'm on spring break this week, and I was out with the family. Got home a little later. So
Okay.
I was gonna email you, but I was like, it'd probably be faster if I just go there. So
Oh, all right. Very cool.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you came. So you got the,
No, I told I was like,